It's little old Luka landing in your inbox. Hi, welcome. I'm your holistic nutrition gal, and I'm happy to be coming your way, always doing these at the start of the month to give you a bit of the lay of the land of what is happening on in my part of the world, if you will. So we do this once a month. Really great, simple ideas to help you know how nutrition can be of support to you and to let you know of some of the other things I've got on the go in case it would be of interest to you. So I'm going to give you a quick look ahead in our Good Food Network this month. We are talking about blood sugar as your metabolic foundation. So we're going to be talking about that in today's newsletter, and I'll give you a little experiment if you may wish to try it. And then I'm going to be talking about a live class I've got coming up as well, SOS Blood Sugar Troubles. So let's dive into this. I wanted to start with a recent client story. And it's kind of actually an amalgamation of two people because I want to keep it. I don't want my clients to ever go, please don't talk about me in your newsletters. You won't know who it is. And if you're the person, you'll be like, I don't know if that's me. Correct, because I've kind of mashed two people together. So just so you know, for privacy purposes. Okay, so this person, we'll name her Judy. I always name my pretend people Judy. I don't know where that started. But I've recently worked with Judy. So let's give you a little picture of what Judy's main struggles were. We always start with where the main health troubles are. And she'd been struggling with hot flashes, but she'd also been struggling with candida. And she had the very traditional, like it's like a rite of passage, the yeast infections. That was one of the main things. But then she started to also look into candida and addressing candida and seeing how candida impacts. And candida can impact in a lot of really interesting ways. It actually has been found to trigger histamine release in some bodies. It can trigger a bunch of other things. And it's an indication that there's an overgrowth of something potentially in the microbiome that is now seeping its way into your system. And now it kind of develops these filaments throughout, well, not filaments, but it's like this network of the candida bacteria itself that goes into your system and can really start to impact a lot of different tissues in your body because of its capacity of flowing through your body through your blood supply. Because it starts in the gut and then traverses that gut barrier and then gets into your whole system. And one of the ways that she found it was in her brain, and it was really impacting some of her function, like some of her brain function and cognitive function. And she would tell me she had so much brain fog and really super struggling with energy levels over the course of the day, really needing to nap, and finding she had mad sugar cravings. And when she would give in to the sugar cravings, then the symptoms would super ramp up, all of her other symptoms. So she had done a ton of work on this, right? She had done a candida cleanse. She had done a low carb protocol to try to address it. She'd done cleanses, supplements, like the whole thing. But she's getting really frustrated because it kept coming back. So, to me, it's an invitation of like, okay, so is there a war, first of all? And I think sometimes we think we need to approach things as if it's a war. So that was kind of her history up until when she came to see me. And she said, I'm really tired of this reoccurring. And like I see this not just in this case, but like in so many clients' cases, that how you move through your day and what it is that you do on a regular basis, what are your routines, what's your life like? Like, what are the inputs from your day and what are the outputs from your day? How do they line up? And is your biochemistry struggling because there's a mismatch somewhere? And so this original approach that she took in was more like, take down candida, it's a war, I'm gonna eradicate it from my system. Which is, I think what a lot of us think that supplements are here for and maybe a good approach when we start. But then that pesky little thing we were trying to get rid of keeps coming back. And it was the case for her. So we, in addition to all this, let me give you a little more context. For this particular honey, an amalgamation of two people. There was also some really clear signs that her thyroid was struggling. She always had cold extremities. She had to have extra sweaters. She was really quite cold, and she had slow digestion. Like she would joke that pooping was a part-time job, that she really had to work at it, and it was really quite bothersome. So what we did, we started addressing underneath all of everything she was struggling with. It was a metabolism that wasn't being supported. And the metabolism, when it's not supported, that's the inputs and the outputs of the body that are not gelling, it's not matching. Something is not working. And we need to change inputs and we need to change some of the outputs. So we focused first for her, because of the candida in particular, we focused on how her body metabolized carbohydrates. We really did a whole lot of work around better blood sugar balancing for her body and changing the inputs. So we changed her breakfast. We changed some of the ways she moved through her day. We shifted where she had her coffee. We did a lot of other big pieces. And when we did this, candida on its own started to disappear. And the loveliest part in all of this is that the hot flashes started to disappear as well. Her cravings were really down. She still had some carbohydrate requests from the body, but they weren't as disruptive as before. And she's still working on things, and we're still working together. Her brain fog had really diminished, and she felt a lot. She shared that she felt a lot more even keeled and capable of participating in her life and going through her days to days. She, in her words, she said, I feel more resilient, like I feel more stable. And that's what we're looking for when we want to eradicate candida. These are the results we're looking for. But you can't just mount a war on candida and continue with the way you live your days with the inputs and the outputs, thinking that candida won't come back. Candida showed up because something wasn't gelling in the inputs and the outputs of how she ran through her days. When you change those, and that's where holistic nutrition really shines, when some of those inputs are really directly aimed at better capacity to balance your blood sugars over the course of the day. It's one of those foundational pieces. And once we looked at this, we woke up her metabolism a little bit more, and everything started to get a little bit easier. And we're still working on other pieces, but now she's just feeling that much better. And we didn't have to do it by mounting a war against candida. We just had to change her environment and her inputs and her outputs of her day to make her biochemistry work a little bit better. We worked with her biochemistry, whereas before she was working against it and mounting a war. And I get it. We live in 2025. That is so much of the mindset that we take on when we're approaching some of our health issues. And I think it's a lot of how the Western way is of looking at things. And I understand it. I've lived it. I still live in it. But I think there's an invitation here to change the conversation, change the tone, change our approach, and take a step away from the panic, take a step away from the war talk within ourselves and with how we approach looking after ourselves. If we just work at actually changing our inputs and our outputs of the day, we now change the biology and the biochemistry of the body. And when we do that, now the body works a little bit smoother. There's a little bit better running of the internal systems and all that stuff. And when we do that, now our symptoms have the potential of going, oh, I don't need to raise the alarm and say something's wrong, because nothing's wrong. We're working much better. And that's why I love nutrition, because I think it can do such a lovely piece in supporting this, because it's a big part of those inputs that come into our day, the foods you eat, how you move through your day, what time you eat, what kind of foods you eat, and those kinds of inputs. So I want to invite you to do a little at-home experiment. So because this month in the Good Food Network, we're going to be exploring blood sugar regulation and getting us off of a roller coaster of blood sugar things and more on a carousel. The carousel feels much better. The blood sugar is really kind of dramatic and is not what we're looking for. Yeah, because when we work at getting onto a carousel of blood sugars as opposed to a roller coaster, on the carousel we have of course, steady your blood sugars over the course of the day, but that helps create a more steady energy, better mood, and a steadier hormone function, and a lot of other pieces. So I'm going to give you an idea to play with at home, little experiment to try in the coming days. So after lunch or after dinner, a couple of times in the next week, can you take a short 10-minute walk? Start with dinner because it's kind of sunset time. You'll get double the benefits from it. It's nothing fancy, just move a little bit. Go for a walk. 10 minutes, you could do 30 if you want. And if you haven't been doing this before and now you implement this idea, now once you've started doing it for a few days, I want you to notice what shifts. Pay attention. What's feeling better? Is your energy a little bit better? Do you sleep better? If you're doing it after lunch, do you now not have that mid-afternoon crash? Is your mood a little bit better? Are you not getting that sort of seventh wind at the end of the day where you're like, oh, now I can't go to bed because I can solve all the world's problems. I've got so much energy right now. Does that start to reduce? All of the things I've just mentioned, that seventh wind, the sleep, the cravings, the steady energy mood pieces, all of those are influenced by our metabolism and our blood sugar balancing in particular. And when you do that 10-minute walk or 30-minute walk, specifically after a meal, wrap up, put the dishes on the counter. I suppose you could load the dishes if you want to, and then go for a walk. You are doing some of that work for your cells to better hear the glucose and the carbohydrates you've just consumed. You're helping them get into your cells. Your cells need to get that glucose inside of the cells in order to do their work of what it is. So each cell relies on the fuel of carbohydrates to function. And when we can get that fuel inside of the cells, they now have the energy to do the thing they're supposed to do, balance hormones, balance mood, whatever the case is. And in people who have had a long-term blood sugar stuff going on when you've been on a roller coaster, you can eat carbohydrates, but it's hard to get those carbs into your cells. Physical activity, gentle walk after meals, helps you better metabolize and utilize the carbohydrates from the meal you've just had. And you start to reset the biochemistry of how your body metabolizes blood sugars. That's like the science part. Do you want to know what this means in logical terms and in just regular speak? When you go for a walk, you're going to use the carbs you just ate. You're not going to store them. They're not going to be extra, just floating around. And now your cells are going to get what it is they need to function. And when they get that, they do what it is they're supposed to do. When they don't get those carbs into your cells, they turn on the stress response. And in a body that has had a hard time getting those carbohydrates into the cells, the longer that goes on, the harder it is to get the carbs inside of the cells. Physical activity, going out for a walk, does that work. We're supposed to be moving individuals. We're supposed to be physical beings. We're supposed to have physical activity. Going for a walk after a meal helps you better get the carbohydrates you're eating into your cells. Now your cells can function. So try it. If you haven't been doing this, try this and see what shifts. Mood, energy, cravings, sleep is another one that could shift. And see what you're noticing. You can try it just after lunch. You could do a week of trying it after supper. You can try a third week where you're doing both. Some people won't have the capacity because they're at work. I get it. So choose the one that works for you and see what you're noticing. Work it into how you move through your days. Now you're shifting some of the biochemistry. And when you shift that biochemistry, what starts to resolve itself? Do you love that? It's a very easy thing. It's super unsexy. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's going to feel like you're not doing very much until you stick to it for a week or so. And then you're like, well, I am better. I'm not biting off the head of people around me. I have a client, I've talked about her before. This was her for sure. She had a hard time and she was feeling like she didn't want to participate in family times because she would just be ready to bite people's heads off. She was going through menopause at the time and she felt her emotions were really unsteady. And so we just implemented go for a walk. Just you and your husband, kids stay at home. You guys go for a walk. And she came back, she goes, why do I feel so much better? That's remarkable. And she now felt she could participate in the family activities for the evening. Whereas before she took herself out of those activities because she felt she was not a nice person. Well, yeah, she wasn't able to get the sugars into her cells. And her system was going, oh my God, we're not getting our fuel. Her cells couldn't hear carbohydrates trying to get in. When she went for a walk, that whole mechanism worked better. So what will you notice? I'd be curious to see. So if this experiment, if you try it and now you're like, I'm getting curious. I'd like to dig deeper, Luka. I have two ways for you to dig deeper. And I know this isn't going to make any sense to tell you about these two options right now because you'll forget that I'm doing these. But save the email and it'll take you back to the links of these two potential options. So I've got a class coming up, SOS Blood Sugar Troubles. You can join me live on Tuesday, November 19th. It's a 2-hour class. It's a perfect class if you want to start to understand why blood sugar balance isn't just a diabetes thing and why maybe going low carb or skipping meals can actually hamper the whole mechanism, making your symptoms worse. You're going to leave us some really good insights into how your body can handle fuel and how to shift some of that biochemistry, what you can do to help it. So that class, it's $30. It's happening on November 19th. Everybody who registers gets the replay. It's called SOS Blood Sugar Troubles. So I'll put a link below this video for those getting the newsletter. It's in your newsletter as well. I've got a second option. So in the GoodFood Network, it's a subscription service I run where we have content every month and it shifts over. This month, we're doing the class I just mentioned, plus a little bit more. So if you want some more ongoing support, you may wish to join us in the GoodFood Network. So if you want to get access to the class I just mentioned, plus weekly check-ins with some practical solutions for better supporting your blood sugars, then come and join us in the GoodFood Network. It is a one-stop shop with lots of ideas. You get to take out of it what it is you need. You don't have to take everything, but there's a weekly session in there where we dive into the content a little bit more, and then we come back to the same solution. So it's where we put this learning into action kind of week by week, if you will. So those are two options for you. If you find yourself thinking, yeah, I wonder how much my blood sugars are on a roller coaster, and I think I'd really like to get on a carousel instead. Those are two options for you. I'd love to cross paths with you. Of course, if ever you have any questions about this or want to have a more personal connection, just hit reply on the email or comment below and we'll get you some details as well. So whatever path you choose, may this month help your body find its steady way through the days ahead. When your blood sugar is balanced, pal, like everything works so much better. Your energy works better, your focus, your brain function, your mood, your emotions, like all of those things. The transition through perimenopause, if that's where you're at, your capacity to show up in your family's life, in your day-to-day life, feels a little bit smoother. So big thanks to you for tuning in. Hope to cross paths with you soon, be it in the class, inside the network, or along the way. I wish you a delightful November and make it delicious. Salut, à bientôt.